push back here. And to Vic, they're having a really hard time handling this Pharah, but that's not surprising when you've got a Genji Tracer for the DPS on the other side.
Yeah, Soon, though, is just sticking with the Tracer. Comes back to rejoin the fray right now.
Yeah.
Gonna try and bottle them up inside this corner, and that's going to work temporarily. Agility's brought back up with the help of the Valkyrie. But Unko walks straight into the barrage.
Hey, well, Kareem does get the kill on Vic in the end, but the res comes through, and the important thing...
Logic, 6 HP left, winning the Tracer duel.
Yeah, is that Vic got the kill on the Mercy. So, Florida trying to get this payload moving.
Kareem couldn't get the Transcendence over to Fate in time to save him.
No, not quite.
And
Now he needs some saving. There goes Kareem. Yeah, easy kill for Logix, finding that Zenyatta alone in the room.
Yeah, this will be point A eventually for the Florida Mayhem. Just a couple of stragglers left to take down Unko.
Oh, what are you doing there?
You should not have been there at all.
He's like, I can get him. I've got a pistol.
That's actually going to be pretty good for the Mayhem.
Being without the Mercy is going to make it impossible for Valiant to set up defensively here early on point B, and you can see Florida doing a good job right now of taking advantage of that. Although Swoosh, oh Swoosh. Oh dear, precious Swoosh. You're a little bit on your own again.
He was, but the question is, are the Valiant going to get there in time to actually stall the payload? Yes. And so, yes, the death of Swoosh is going to be impactful here on the net movement of the payload.
That's right. Oh, Swoosh.
How long is Agility's going to hold this Dragon Blade this time? Zupe, there will be a mind game with the Transcendence as to whose ability is going to come out first.
Finds the kill on the Logix from behind, but Vic uses that to take out the opposing Widowmaker. Payload not quite moving yet. Maysar moving now. Nice kill onto Fate as Tavik takes advantage of Manitin chasing the Winston back.
Yeah, Florida keeping this moving actively at the moment. They're in a good position still to take the victory here on Dorado.
Tavik's really had a lot of good shots on this Widowmaker, actually. We've seen Soon kind of have the edge in that 1v1 so far tonight, but Vic showing up here late in the game.
Nice pick on Fate right out of the air. Agility's harassing him in the back lines, and
that's a reflect.
That's a reflect kill on the Tavik, and now the Dragon Blade going to come through.
Yeah, Transcendence used, though, on the side of Florida to try to nullify that Genji damage, and they do just that. Logix finds the kill on the Agilities. Manitin just trying to push those tanks off the payload, and they will. So Valiant not really able to get much defensive headway here, in Florida nearly done with point B already.
No, not except for getting the Transcendence used by Zupe as a trade for the Dragon Blade, but you're not actually going to stop the payload until you engage with Kareem. Unko and Kareem both using their support ults.
Wow, yeah, layered support ultimates for Valiant, and they still lose people regardless. So a little bit of defensive disaster here on the LA Valiant side, and Florida will get point B with a good amount of time in the time bank.
I mean, somehow, even though the support ults were used from the Valiant, the payload is still pushed in. Nobody was actually on the cart there, so zero value from the Valiant.
Well, it seemed like as those support ultimates were used, 3 other people on the team died. So you kind of had the supports keeping each other up, and you're like, well, good for us.
I mean, there were some resurrections. It was just nobody was actually communicating to stay on the payload. So a mistake made by the Valiant. And now 3 minutes remaining and a big advantage for the Mayhem.
And true enough. A lot of time in this time bank to go through point C. Unko falls again.
Tavik with 2.
Tavik's just been going wild on this Widowmaker here on Dorado. A bunch of kills. NBD mech'd even. And that payload will move as soon as somebody from Florida gets back on it.
Nobody's on it. They're wasting a lot of time right now.
Guys, get on the payload. There we go. There we go.
Starting to roll back, but 5 seconds or so that could have been used for payload movement, and now instead everybody's respawned on the side of the Valiant.
Unko dead again. Tavik picks him twice in a row. Zupa falls. Oh, and now the kills come in onto the Florida support, so that's going to be looking okay for Valiant here. Although Florida, again, they've got time. They can lose this push and go and reset.
I don't know if I would have used the Transcendence there either if I was Kareem.
Yeah.
With the enemy supports dead, you're already going to have a healing advantage and the respawn advantage, and now instead, Unko's still only at 58%, so Florida Mayhem finding themselves with another opportunity. Tavik wants to be on the Genji. Sometimes you need that Dragon Blade simply to push this point to the end. You have to get that big team wipe.
Yeah, and Unko spent a long time building up this current Valkyrie because he's been dead for a lot of the last couple fights.
Yes, he has.
You're not going to build on the ultimate then, really. Agility's waiting for his moment.
Tvik takes out Soon instantly. Gonna try and bait Unko. Logic standing on top of his body right now. Manatan throws a self-destruct to prevent the Mercy from getting
that's
a resurrect.
Three for Tvik and one for Logic as Unko falls, and Florida Mayhem has been crushing these last few fights. That payload's nearly there. They might have this one.
Yeah, they might, though. The Valkyrie's still active for them, too. Soon wants to delay this payload, but they've got to get through the Transcendence.
Florida using everything they've got to try to make this happen here. Swoosh batting back the Valiant, and now here comes Agility with the Dragon Blade. Gets one, but Swoosh there to protect people, and there to take out the enemy team. And now MV DMAC, that may be about it. No, they still get the respawns there. But as soon as Cree falls, that'll be it in Florida. Will win Dorado, so they will come away with this with at least one map win.
And this has been one of their best maps this season.
For sure.
I'm not surprised this is the one that they would take. Had a pretty good offense coming into this run. Tvik really showing up on the Widowmaker on the last map.
Yep, that's right. So the LA Valiant will win the series 3-1, but Florida at least getting a point with that map win. And yeah. That was that.
That is going to be
that. Was that. Pretty much. Well, more good stuff from Valiant. They had a tough schedule up to this point, and they've really proved that they're certainly one of the top teams in the league, and a team to watch out for as we start looking ahead to playoffs.
I'm really excited to see if they can actually make it to the end of the Stage 1 playoffs, and the upsets this week have given them new life.
One wonders. Back to the nest to break it down right after this.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. And by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
agilities from the LA Valiant. Congratulations, your second win this week. Now, you were the heavy favorite going into this match. However, if this week showed us anything, it's that every team can beat every team. Did that kind of change your preparation going against the Mayhem?
It didn't really change it because we've always known that, like, never underestimate our opponents. We always work that way. We just don't want to go in it cocky. So we prepare the same every time. We never underestimate. All
right, that's the way to go. Now, you're now only one game back from being in the top 3 here in the league. Do you think we're going to see the Valiant in the Stage 1 playoffs?
I do think, yeah.
All right. What does the crowd think? We're going to see those guys? Well, we certainly hope so. We're going to see you guys back on the stage next week. Thank you so much for joining me for the interview. Now heading back to our analyst desk to break down the action that way around.
Thank you so much, Zoe. All right, one more time here to close out match number 2. I'm your host, Puckett, alongside Bren and Crumbs. And let's just start here talking about where we're at with the league standings. Valiant, big win today. Now jumps up from the number 6 spot, that's where they were at this morning, to the number 4. They're right behind the Spitfire, the New York XL, and the Dynasty. Bren, do you believe in agilities and the rest of this squad? Do they have the potential to break into the top 3 at the end of their 10 games here in Stage 1?
I think you'd be daft to underestimate Valiant, to be honest. As the best Western team right now, they've shown that they're capable across the board. Crumbs is like umming and ahhing. He wants to disagree with me, but for real, here's the thing. Loads of teams have come into the match. They've underestimated Valiant, and they've come out bruised and battered at the end of it. So what's your point here, Crumbs?
Well, listen, I think that you're right to say that the Valiant is likely to finish in the playoffs, but to say that they are the best team at that pack, I think that the Philadelphia Fusion would like to have a word with the Valiant, because to me, I think that team is the one that is really being able to gun for the top based on the synergies that their DPS do have displayed.
I think Soon makes a pretty solid argument that they have the firepower to break into the top 3. You saw him going to work on the Widowmaker. Manitin and the crew tried to bring it back on the well, but overall, how did Ilios play out, fellas?
In general, it was just pretty much Valiant just dominating on a multitude of different heroes. Silkthread came in for this map number 3. We saw a bit of a sign of life, to be honest, out of Florida on the second round when it was on well. Tavik moved on to the Junkrat, and we saw actually a good sign. They took a bit of percentage away from Valiant, but unfortunately it wasn't enough because adaptations were made by Valiant. Once again, they switched to a sort of Pharah Mercy composition and ultimately just ended up coming out on top. Tavik tried to match them by switching over to Pharah. Didn't work as well as he was expecting. However, I do still feel like Tavik had a big part into why these matches were relatively close.
Crumbs, they haven't been able to really crush a control yet. What does Florida Mayhem need to focus on moving forward?
Well, I think moving forward, they'll probably be able to do a lot better at control, just adding more players to the roster. And a lot of these teams, when it comes to control, they're switching up their players, and so if you don't have your players that are specifically geared towards playing in those control maps, you're going to have a lot harder time figuring out how to manage the tempo when you switch game mode to game mode. So I think that once they add more players, they'll have a much easier time in these control points.
Really good point. I mean, you look at New York, they bring in Pine for game number 3s. You look
Agility,
at the other
Silk
squads, Agility, Silkthread jumping in. It all adds up. What doesn't add up for me, though, is what happened on Dorado. You won 3 games. We're expecting a 4-0 sweep after a stellar first 3 quarters. But now it's the Florida Mayhem standing strong and taking the win. Bren, you were saying it as the game was playing out. This is Florida's strength right now. If you look at all of the maps and the modes, for some reason, they're excelling on Dorado.
Yes, statistically, Dorado is the one that they seem the strongest on. I feel like it fits their kind of play style in terms of the way the map is laid out as well. Definitely benefits to Vic and Logix having a good game. Swoosh also, I mean, Monty actually made reference to this multiple times during the game. Swoosh was committing so much to shutting down both Soon and Kariv, trying to make sure they had minimal impact in this game. It's a big part of why they actually ended up winning it, because their play style on this map is so drastically different from how they play other maps.
I also think on the first push from the Mayhem, they busted out the Pharah, being able to just recognize the composition that the Valiant was running, which was Genji Tracer, and you pick a Pharah into that, you're going to be able to zoom right past the first point, start building up some steam for your second push. And I think if it wasn't for that Pharah pick on the very get-go against the Genji and the Tracer, it would have been a lot harder for the Mayhem to steamroll that last point.
Do you guys have any concerns now for the Valiant after seeing them drop 1 game in this series?
Not particularly. They still seem like the strongest team we're seeing in the Western Western sort of region, at least in terms of having Western players on their roster. Of course, they've got a few Koreans as well, but still, we'd consider them a Western-based team. And I got to say, they have shown that, you know, they can bleed in a couple of these matches, but this is just the Overwatch League. The competition is so high that it's normal for teams to drop maps against each other. You know, there's no reason why these guys wouldn't be here in the first place if that wasn't going to be the case.
All right, it's time to wake up the crowd one more time as we close out our post-game session. And of course, we can't leave the desk without crowning our player of the match. Make some noise for our player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. It's not soon today. It's the big boy, Fate on the main tank, getting the job done.
Yeah, in general, Fate across the board really impressed us in terms of the amount of eliminations he was putting out. Tons of kills, in fact, final blows with his jump pack. This is a crucial statistic. It shows that he's really the cleanup now for Valiant. He's causing a lot of damage, a lot of destruction, and finishing up where Soon leaves a lot of these players weak and hungry. You can see in these clips here, he's really just sort of the guy who's doing a lot of the damage and doing work for his team.
It was actually about twice the amount of jump pack kills than his counterpart on Swoosh on the Florida Mayhem. And you can tell that in a lot of these tanks, we were actually having this discussion on the desk bucket, that between the Divas and the Winstons and a lot of the games that you typically have, we have the damage charts go off the roof where it comes to the damage block. Where here in professional play, it's about the damage block that really makes the difference between these two tanks. And you saw there, Fate, 45,000 damage blocked, over 20,000 more than damage he dealt.
Ridiculous stuff coming in from the main tank. He is a big reason that the Valiant is resurging and currently the #4 team in the league. That's going to do it for our second match of the day. But coming up next, we saved the best for last. The Gladiators, well, they lost the crown here in LA, but they're looking to reclaim their throne against the red-hot Houston Outlaws. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
to be a winning fight for the Gladiators.
And it is a brawl. Houston Outlaws again.
Great opening by Remix there.
Here comes Cool Matt back on the point.
That was a dominant showing from Houston.
The Los Angeles Gladiators have got a full head of steam.
Houston Outlaws trying to grind out this win.
Resettle this. I don't know if I want to get too aggressive. Shaz is insane, by the way.
Whoa, Linkser just walks up on the flank.
This is so huge.
It's purple and white versus lime and black. We're going to see the Gladiators face off against the Houston Outlaws to close out Week 3. And this is set to be an amazing matchup. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Overwatch League regular season. We are currently in Stage 1. And these two teams you're about to see are right in the middle of the pack. To bring you all the action tonight, I've got the full desk. We got Bren, we've got Crumbs, and Zoe is with us once again. Zoe, what do you think of the Valiant? They were able to beat the Gladiators last week.
Yeah, they did. You know what? I was very happy to see them once again doing that hero swap with Karif and Unko. And I did chat to Agilities right before an interview and asked, do you actually like that? Like, are you confident with your hero, like, with your support swapping their heroes? And he said he prefers Unko on his end.
Prefer Unko. Hey,
Unko. It's working for them. It didn't against the Gladiators. They had to switch it up, but it did work against the Mayhem. However, Agilities, not so happy about it.
All right, let's keep this moving here as we got to get to the schedule. For anyone who missed the action earlier today, well, what were you doing with your Saturday? Dallas Fuel went up against the Boston Uprising. That one started off with a Game 5 victory going in favor of Boston as they improved to 3-3. The Valiant just dismantled the Florida Mayhem despite a Game 4 victory for Florida. And now we've got the big one. Will the Gladiators be able to improve to 3-3, or is it the Houston Outlaws now joining their rivals, the LA Valiant and the Philadelphia Fusion, at 4-2? Let's get in the action. Are you guys ready? We're in the city of LA, so it's time to welcome the hometown squad. Give it up for the Gladiators. We can still see you, Short. This squad coming in at 2-3. They were up 2-0 over the Valiant, but it seemed they got a little bit overconfident, and this 7-man roster fell in 3 straight games. Crumbs, they only have 7 players. Does this limit their flexibility?
You would think so, but this team has been stretching the individual limits of their flexibility as far as anybody else, because especially in the DPS department between Surefour, Asher, and Hydration, they have pretty much every DPS down that you can possibly want, and because of that, they're able to tailor their specific strategy to every map.
Zoe, we saw the shields up chant all through this audience during the battle against the Valiant. Who was getting the fans excited? What were they doing right?
I think generally they have been showing us just some absolutely fantastic Overwatch on this stage. Most convincing performance for me personally has been on Horizon Lunar Colony against the Valiant, as they just rolled over their opponents with a very effective quad tank and warrior setup.
And Bren, you said one player that is not in the starting lineup kind of underperformed. Who was it?
Yeah, Asher, this guy who's not playing today, we know he can play at a consistent level. He hasn't really been showing up today. I can understand why he's not in the starting lineup, but I do want to see him a bit later on.
He's been a rock star on Tracer. We'll see Asher a little bit later, I'm sure of it. For now, though, we have to introduce the Gladiators' opponents. Please give it up for the team from Texas, the Houston Outlaws. The Outlaws started their season 0-2 in Week 1. Since then, they have rattled off 3 straight match victories, and in fact, all 3 were sweeps, finishing with a 12-0 map run coming into today.
Well, if we ever learned anything from the Seoul Dynasty, that the opponents that you have faced on your streaks matter a lot, and the opponents that the Outlaws have defeated to get on this streak have a combined record of 2-16, which is a really bad statistic. So I think that you can take it with a grain of salt when you look at the improvement of this team.
I think in general, I would agree with that, Crumbs, to be honest, but you can't take away from the talent that Houston has on this roster. Because across the board, these guys are absolutely stacked with one of the best tank duos, with some of the best DPS, as well as the best supports in the Overwatch League currently as it stands. These guys are absolutely packed to the brim with a lot of, basically, talent. And I honestly, they do perform quite well. You can't take it away from just their opponents.
For the record, that is Raucus's hair after it is done. I was in the green room with them as we were getting our makeup and hair. Always a beautiful man on the main stage.
Yeah, it's not just his hair, it's also his performance. He impressed me so much in their last map on Junkertown. He went to Bastion and he actually rocket jumped with Bastion in tank mode onto the high ground to like wreak havoc onto the enemies, and that for me personally gives him an MVP award.
And Raucus, who your favorite hero is to play, he didn't answer with the support. Maybe we'll see some action from him as this tournament goes on. We've seen him on Bastion. Hog, what does he bring into the table today? Let's talk about the big picture here, Bren. And I want to start here with the play styles. How do these two teams compare?
Yeah, so in general, Houston are going to be a lot more sort of patient in terms of their play. They work around Moomer and Coolmat in a lot of ways, and they set up a lot of the plays themselves, but they're not a sort of synergizing tank duo like we come to expect of a lot of other teams. This is the most interesting aspect, really, between them. You can see here the statistics between the two divas, Bishu and Coolmat. Not too much difference between them. It's more like the playstyle that they play. However, the main tanks, you will see a big difference once we get to that stat page. That's really where the meat of these tanks is lying, because Moomer performs radically different compared to iRemix. But in terms of the diva play, it is kind of normal to see this sort of stuff. Divas aren't going to be too different, with the exception of, I guess, other divas like Poco. But here are the main tanks now. Moomer and iRemix putting out big numbers all around. Moomer prioritizes the survivability of his supports a lot more, whereas iRemix sort of sets up the DPS players when it comes to that. So you do see a bit of a drastic difference in terms of stats.
Do you think it's safe to say that iRemix is a little bit more aggressive than Muma? How can you account for a few more deaths?
Well, iRemix tends to be the first one into the battle. If you're running Winston D.Va a lot of the time, you're going to have the Winston go in first, and then the D.Va follows up with a defense matrix to make sure that the damage is blocked. And sometimes that combination doesn't go as planned as you would have liked to have planned it, because Bishu will sometimes deviate and go protect his supports if a fight happens at the same time. So Remix needs a little bit more coordination with the team, but that's just something that happens in a lot of the games.
The players are ready to go. I just looked behind me, all smiles. They're about ready to get into this match. Before we can get to them, I gotta ask everyone on this desk, huge matchup today. Zoe, when you interviewed Jake, he said it's gonna be a 4-0 when they match up against the Gladiators. Do you agree with him?
I don't think that's going to be a 4-0. I do think that the Gladiators are going to put up one hell of a fight on that stage. I'm almost certain the crowd behind me is going to be agreeing with that. However, I'm going to very quietly say that I do think the Outlaws do have the edge.
Oh, no.
But not a 4-0. Got it. Crumb.
Not a 4-0.
Not a 4-0 either, but I do think that the Gladiators' scrappiness has hit a great chord with me, and I think that this team actually has a good chance of taking this game. I think that the Gladiators are going to just surprise. Every single thing that the Gladiators have done so far has been surprising.
We have one Houston pick. We have one LA pick. Now it's time for the Brit, our tiebreaker. Where are you going, Brett?
All right. Okay. Here's the thing with this, right? Okay. These two teams are very closely matched. I honestly think Jake is heavily underestimating LA Gladiators, right? Firstly, because this roster can just surprise you out of nowhere. If they're coming into this expecting a 4-0, they're going to be sorely mistaken, because this is going to be an incredibly close game. I feel like it is going to go to 5 maps based on the maps that they're playing as well. However, I'm going to give this to actually Houston Outlaws. I feel like they're going to be taking it.
You're going 2 Houston, 1 Gladiators. Let's hear it from the crowd. Where are the Houston fans at? Who's cheering on the hometown heroes of the Gladiators? I think this room is a little shielded up heavy. Let's send it backstage. We got Mr. X and Uber on the call.
Sea salt. It's gotta be sea salt, bro. My boy Coolmat's out there looking like Jimmy Neutron. That hair's defying gravity. I need to get me some of that.
Yeah,
Raucus also got that thing going on.
I wouldn't use the stuff that Raucus uses. I would use the cool.
Are you sure even use I didn't even know. But the point is, here's the real question, right? Yeah. Which one's going up, the anti or the shields?
I think this is going to be a very close game. We were talking with Hex upstairs. It's like, well, if the Gladiators win, is it like kind of an upset over the Outlaws? Like the Outlaws wins come over Shanghai, Florida, some teams that have not performed well. They do get a 4-0s, they do get a huge 4-0 over the Dallas Fuel. They do look much better. I think you kind of look at those 4-0s. Like Crumb said, they're not the best of opponents, right? But they have looked very, very good in those 4-0s.
It's a very diplomatic way to put it.
The Gladiators always surprise me for whatever reason. They come out with odd looks. Hydration can throw a lot of different things in the mix. I really love Shaz and Big Goose as a support combo. I agree with Bren. I think this has makings of a 5-game series.
Here's why it's so hard to predict, by the way, how the Gladiators perform. First game, they 4-0'd Shanghai. Then they got 4-0'd by Seoul. Then they had the reverse sweep with Philadelphia. Then they got 4-0'd by New York. And then they had another reverse sweep this time from the Valiant, right? So, to them. So it's like, the results are really polarized between two spectrums.
If they win that Valiant series, are they the favorite for you in this match?
I still don't think so. I still don't think so. I think like the Outlaws are hitting consistency. I mean, the Dallas win, you've got Dallas, Shanghai, Florida, the last 3 conquests, arguably 3 of the weaker teams in the Overwatch League in general. But they're looking good, right? They don't look sloppy in those wins. It's looking clean. So that's the only way you can like try and assess their ability against teams that they're kind of trashing.
And Houston, for me, seems like a team that's on the rise. Like they're starting to hit a formula that works. Jake's making a lot of great calls. Playing a lot of great Overwatch. Besides on the Junkrat now, you're seeing him play very good Pharah. Seeing his Genji play be very good. Now you know what he can do on the Junkrat. He lays down a trap with a mine there. Beginning of this game, it'll be the Houston Outlaws on defense. Nothing too surprising. Potentially they could have run like a triple DPS, right? We see Rockets play 76 time again. He could have played Ana in this type of situation, but he'll be going on Zenyatta.
Oi, Blizzard Arena, make some noise. Last game of the week 3's been massive. This one's not going to disappoint either. Houston Outlaws on the defensive side. Again, your boy Linksa looking for some dinxes.
You're thinking of that one all week, huh?
Oh, no, I already said that. I've reused it, but hey, it's worth it.
Lynx are one of the best Widowmaker players we have in the Overwatch League.
Bishu disagrees.
You look to see. I know the LA Gladiators put a lot of pressure on them, right? With the tanks that they have, being extremely mobile, hydration up in the sky, and then Surefour applying pressure constantly, being the Soldier 76.
Bishu's so carefully trying to make sure that Chaz gets up on this high ground now. It's a methodical approach here from the Gladiators. Not the first team we've seen, and you can see that Bishu's trying to help Remix get up to the rest of his team, but he's taking a lot of damage. Oh, Linksa! He's not giving this guy a break. Now the dive's in though, they're going to try and play it high and low ground. Look at Surefour on the flank. A bit of damage into Linksa, and he's decided that's going to be sufficient for now. Remix has dropped to cool Matt. Bishu's trying to hold his ground for now. It's time for the jump on in the rope-a-dope. Linksa down to Surefour. Bishu now has to give up the high ground and his mech for the time being. But there's other players with presence on the point. They're trying to chase Jake down, and Bishu found him with the Bunny Blaster. However, a little bit disjointed. We see Gladiators coming from multiple directions here, Matt, but it doesn't quite work out.
Yeah, it's hard. They end up losing Remix at the beginning of that fight, and it's very difficult to kind of make things work without your main tank in that situation. They did a nice job of forcing Linkser out of his position up on the high ground, forcing him down by the point.
And then they flanked him again.
Yeah, and they end up getting him, but he gets res right back up. So, unless you actually, finish those kills, get that Mercy out of the equation, players just come right back to life. That Shaz will get a pick here on Jake early. That's going to force the Valkyrie out. It's going to be Muma using Primal Rage, and they're going to use their self-destruct. So a lot of ults here used by the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah, Shaz has to go for the trans though as well, and they're close to a Valkyrie for Big Goose, so the Gladiators can contest and recommit to this fight if they choose to do so, and that seems to be the case. Valkyrie now, Angel Wings are unfurled, and Remix is brought back into the fold. Surefour on the low ground now, the tactical visor getting pressured. Cool Man Muma both in his face, 2 of the big burly tanks, like the beat is, of course, on a Quidditch pitch. And now Surefour has a bit of space to work with. The Transcendence now coming out from Raucus. There's a lot of these offensive ultimates coming out of him, but Hydration's back on his feet. Surefour bearing down again. The heavy pulse rifle with suppressive fire. The Outlaws now need to try and regroup if they want a chance at retaking this one, but it looks like they're pretty much out. Locked out of the house.
It's a good first push. They take point A there for the Los Angeles Gladiators. Their first push, the initial push, doesn't work out, but when they go in with that initial setup there in that middle of the street, Shaz able to get that first pick yet again. How many times, when you have him on Zenyatta, usually you're relying on a Tracer to open things up, or a Widowmaker, or maybe even a Genji, right? Going into the back line, just dashing through player quick. When you have a Zenyatta who can just open up fights with those early picks, especially on a target like Jake, it's huge.
Transcendence now for Shaz. He's trying to facilitate for the rest of the dive to stay topped up as they pressuring. Look at Coolman, he's very low. Self-destruct now as he wants his mech back, but Bunny's already down. The door is wide open now for the Gladiators, and they seek to capitalize on this one. Hydration has found Linksa. Shurikens claim their target, and the Gladiators aren't slowing down yet.
And they get Bonnie right as he's about to get Valkyrie, so no opportunity to use Valkyrie to combat that Transcendence that comes in from the Gladiators. So the Gladiators will continue to move the payload through the second phase of this map on Numbani. They're getting close to taking point B. Probably going to see the Houston Outlaws come out and contest, though.
And they're not going to be in great position for it. They have the Transcendence. They might have to open with it, but they lost Linksa early on in the fight. He has to res, but that wrecks the tempo for the Outlaws. Now they've got to try and regroup and get back in position. Linksa tries to get to the back line, but Surefour's in a great position here just to make sure the back line remains protected. Now the tactical visor, though. Coolman's going to run out of defense matrix in just a moment. Muma backs up. He had a Discord all placed on him. He knew Shawfall could shred through him, and now that's the transfer for Orcus being forced.
Yeah, Hydration uses his Dragon Blade at the same exact time as well. They're going to bring Hydration back into the fight as Big Goose still up in the sky. With his Valkyrie, it'll be Jake now using his own tactical visor. As teams just dumping ultimates into this fight. Shaz will use a Transcendence. Mumo will be the first one to fall after everybody gets brought back up by the Mercies. And you see Coolmat just trying to stay alive, and his Diva Mech there gets discorded, cut down. The Gladiators should be able to advance the payload here.
Looks like they might have it here. Orcus getting chucked away, and they've got it! Last stage of the map now to go on the attacker side for the Gladiators. Matt, such an interesting composition. Genji, 76. Not a combo we often see on this map. At least not in this stage of the map.
No, usually you see the Tracer with this combination. 76 now being used in that back line just to provide a lot of extra damage. And it's interesting, with Linkser now playing the Tracer, you're really kind of looking at Surfwar against Linkser in terms of Linkser trying to get into the back, trying to make a difference, taking out some of these supports. As the dive comes in from the Houston Outlaws, they do get Surfwar early. Muma able to pop his Primal Rage, stay alive, just bashing Bishu into the corner here. As Houston should win this fight, the Gladiators will be forced to back out. End up a lot of players dying here. Have to come off the spawn. Off that spawn, though, they will have Transcendence, you'll have Dragon Blade, you have another attack visor, you're going to have Primal Rage and Self-Destruct. Both support ults online for the Houston Outlaws here. So you just really have to get that Valkyrie out, then maybe you can make a difference with that attack visor or Dragon Blade.
Rumor going down is not a good start. That's a very, very deep area for a Mercer to try and go. Bunny's definitely not going to be risking that. So the Gladiators now have a chance just to set up here and perch themselves on the player's payload for a potential poke here at the finish of the map. Shaz, Transcendence is available there as well. Most of the Shawfall's wrapped around the side. There's a veritable trove of ultimates available for both teams right now, and he can hit the tactical visor off. So Jake wants to start this party. Shaz is staying safe, but he's bringing pressure. You can see Coolmat looks for Bishu there, trying to get rid of the mini Diva now. Coolmat for a self-destruct is going to zone Shaz away for the rest of his team for the time being. He might have to run back in with a Transcendence in just a moment. It looks like he's reluctant to use it, but it might be the play here. Rumour's back. Now Shawfall coming in the tactical visor himself. Rumour now doesn't have a barrier to protect himself with the cooldown's not available. Coolmat, the man himself, trying to protect, but now it's going to be the Dragon Blade. Hydration finds one. Bunny down now. This is looking pretty nasty for the Houston Outlaws. Coolmat about to get V-suited as well, and Hydration's got rule of the roost. Now the Transcendence comes in. Patience from Shaz to save the healing until this part of the fight, and Hydration just cleans them up. Sure enough there, the spot of dryness on the Outlaws after Hydration gets all over it.
The patience from Big Goose and Shaz was huge there. The Valkyrie came in from Bonnie from the Houston Outlaws. They saved both of those support ults. They used the Valkyrie right as Bonnie's Valkyrie's running out. Then Raucus uses that Transcendence. When Surfwar uses that attack visor, you don't really get much with the attack visor, but you get that Transcendence out, and then you have both support ults gone for the Houston Outlaws, and you have Hydration with the Dragon Blade. Follow it up with your own Transcendence, and that's a way to close out a map.
You see Bishu there as well a moment. Hit the table in excitement, realizing that his team have set a cracking pace. 1 minute and 15 seconds is in the time bank here for the Gladiators, which is good. Some quick maps here for Bishu, perhaps? Might be trying to figure something out, but again, I listened into the pre-game warm-up speech from DP, their coach, to the Gladiators, and it was pretty simple. He just said, look, guys, we win and we lose as a team. If we win and you guys aren't communicating, I don't want to hear about it. I want to win or loss when you guys are, experiencing this as a unit. So these guys are very much lined up. And we had Remix out here to start to pop off, to start to yell, like, come on, let's go. So there's a lot of energy and hype coming in with the Gladiators here.
There's also, when Jake goes in that interview with Zoe and says that they're going to 4-0 him. I'm sure the Gladiators players are watching that and they're like, oh, really?
I think Jake wants that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this would be their fourth 4-0 in a row.
Which is huge for just, map win percentage, right? And just map differential at the end of the year, potentially, right?
I'm quite sure that the Outlaws are hoping for a close match. And they may well have it at this stage. Solid attack. Numbani is it's an extremely long map. We see so often, like we saw it in our first series of the day there, especially Dallas trying to attack. They had so much time in the bank after they got that first point, but then it's treacherous, those second two stages, or the last two stages of the map. They were getting caught up a lot. They lost about 5 minutes on that push, so to have some time at all is excellent.
My ultimate is charging.
I mean, the Outlaws do a good job on defense on the first initial push by the Gladiators through, from point A to point B. There really wasn't a great defensive stand from the Outlaws, and then that, first, as soon as the Gladiators get the payload underneath the bridge, the underpass, that's when they started to play some defense. So now you're seeing the triple DPS here out of the Houston Outlaws. It'll be Raucus playing the Soldier 76. You're gonna have Bonnie being that solo support playing Mercy. They get Remix low, they finish him off.
Good consistency of those rockets there for Jake, just nailing him one after another into Remix. And all the healing available to the Gladiators wouldn't have been enough to keep the Monkey alive during that one. Stone cold and very clean play from the Houston Outlaws. Not a scratch.
It's about as easy as it gets there for the Outlaws. Raucus will go back to the spawn. He will switch off 76. He'll give that over to Jake. Raucus will play Zenyatta, so you're going to get the 2 DPS, 2 supports, 2 tanks, something a little bit more standard here from the Houston Outlaws. Hydration going to stay on this far on the defensive side of things. He's able to put down so much area damage. Get Bishu quite low. Looks like they're potentially trying to go in and finish him off.
Oh, I appreciate that from Link, so they're really chomping at the bit. Notice that when he's not reloading, he's doing damage. So it's definitely going to help him charge up a pretty quick pulse bomb. But he waded into a little bit more trouble than he thought. He couldn't quite see what was on the other side of the bus there, and he was mopped by the Gladiators.
It's like he knew he had Bishu weak, around that corner, trying to get that D-Mech, which would have been huge if he was able to get it, but just ended up running into the entire team of the LA Gladiators. Gladiators have both support ults. Bonnie will have Valkyrie. Going to be a little bit behind on Transcendence because Raucus switches it over, but the Remix who gets taken out first here by Jake. The Gladiators use their Valkyrie. They can't come around this corner yet because Jake with that attack visor would just mow him down. Jake takes out 2 more. Get a D-Mech onto Bishu here as well. Bishu will take him out with the Bunny Blaster, but it should be a push. The Houston Outlaws continue to make.
Transcendence galore over that fight. Raucus has his one still saved up though, which is just huge for the Gladiators now as well. We can see that Outlaws push back in, self-destructing. Shortfall can get away, he's mobile, he can run, but perhaps not fast enough. Bionic enhancement just doesn't cut the mustard these days, Matthew. Big Goose is going to fall down now as well, and that fight got opened up. Perhaps a slight mistake, a misstep from the Gladiators cost them the biggest damage source and the second point.
And they get Surefour as he's using his tack visor there. Everybody up for the Houston Outlaws. I mean, you had both your big tanks in the mix. So it's probably not an opportunity to get a ton with that tack visor. But
maybe they'd already given up the point and Surefour wanted to switch, so it was the quickest way to go back to it. It's possible that he fed himself into that. We didn't see where he was standing, right? So benefit of the doubt, perhaps.
So now you have Hydration go over to Doomfist. Surefour is going to play Tracer, and Doomfist is such a wild card, right? And especially when you have somebody who is as good as Doomfist as Hydration, he can really just cause a ton of problems.
There'll be trouble here,
Not anymore, though.
Hydration's going to fall into the concussive mine, and yeah, you kind of pick someone up, but sometimes it just don't go the way you want it to. Bishu, desuited, and he's going to get back in, though, with very little health. Bunny's desperately trying to keep him up there as well. He's got the rod pretty much right up his nostril. Keep that healing coming. Lynx is going to pressure forward here as well. Hydration knows he's in trouble. He had no reflect left. Anyway, he'd already used it. Lynx applying pressure so much. Right up in the face of the Gladiators. Not even a chance to breathe, a chance to draw your weapon and face the music. And now he's close to a Deadeye. Notice he's going to set up in this position preemptively. This is going to hurt. Bishu down. That's a mini Diva gone by the wayside, and it'll take that one for sure. Big Goose now low. That's going to be Lynx pushing on.
The Outlaws got angry in that first half. They come back, they set a crazy time. I believe they have a little bit over 4 minutes. Yeah, 4 minutes and 21 seconds left in the time bank.
Despite the fact that they were so fast, there's still intense discussion that's occurring here. So, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if the Outlaws are still not happy with even how that went. But Matt, it looked pretty smooth for them from start to finish.
I mean, this is a team that when you speak to these guys, they're extremely fiery. You can see move on your screen here. Like, they want it bad. Like, you know, more than a lot of other teams, I feel like they really want to be the best. They believe they can get there. And I think they're doing a great job of just pushing each other to get there.
Very vocal and eloquent players on this team as well. And they're not settling perhaps for, you know, any less than what they've achieved now. In fact, maybe they wanted more. But guys, 4 minutes and 21 seconds for a time bank on this map is close to unheard of. In fact, in matches that should be close, it never happens. So if that's anything to go by, the Outlaws are way ahead at this stage.
And Lynxer will be playing the Widowmaker here on defense yet again. On Widow on this map, he's had about a 60% scoped accuracy thus far. It's pretty nutty.
So funny as well, he deflected a lot of the praise that was given to him by saying that playing Widow isn't about about aiming anymore, by the way. It's about your team capitalizing on your kills or damage and protecting you. So very humble, very selfless. I don't think there's any way of doubting that Linkser has been very, very sharp. That's just him for you. I've got a funny story to share about him in a moment. But
he's been like a completely different player, you know, since that EU Contenders playoffs where he just went crazy.
The last time I saw him like this is when he played for Creation Esports at the very start of the pretty much during beta. We played with Numlocked on that team, and he was very, very good. And we just never really saw him succeed on a team called Dignitas, but now he's back. That Linkser, the vintage Linkser, has returned. And now he's just spreading damage here as well. Want some damage? Here, you have damage. You have some damage.
You lose Remix at the beginning here. That's going to force the Gladiators to back all the way up. Now with only 30 seconds left. It's going to be really difficult. Not giving themselves a great opportunity here towards the end. Hydration has to be careful. I mean, he pokes out a little bit.
This Infrasight could be so big, by the way. If he gets it quickly enough, it'll deny the Gladiators a chance to try and take the Outlaws by surprise. Literally wall hacks. And now he's got it here as well, so another shot. Hydration, shot for! Oh, maybe if he had the Infrasight, Linkser would have seen this assailant coming out from behind for the backstab, but it may not matter. Shaz has fallen down, so that big healing core is missing. Jake's trying for a very cheeky Kobe shot on towards Hydration, but Raucus is there to finish the job on the low ground. Now Big is in trouble. Big is trying to get a rest. No, thank you! He's going to get taken down by the concussive mine, and that will be Bishu and Shaz now to fall. The second coming of Shaz, the second dying, and the Houston Outlaws there as well. Oh, they're looking good, Matt. 4 minutes 21 on the clock. All they're going to do is get one tick on that first point on attack.
It's not looking good for the Gladiators, who now go on the defensive side. Houston Outlaws look real good on their defensive stand, albeit they didn't have to hold on for that long. If Surefour gets behind Lynx, they're able to pick him up quick. That's about all the Gladiators get there.
And that was quick as well. It was one clip for Surefour. Linkser, I mean, we're looking from his perspective, and we didn't expect to see Surefour come from there as well. So he did well. He found the target that he was looking for. But credit to the Outlaws as well on that defensive side. Didn't overcommit to the first fight. You know, there was a bit of trading back and forth. No one really got too aggressive. No one went too deep. And now it really is as easy as 1, 2, 3 here, ladies and gentlemen. For the Outlaws to close this one out.
Take a look at, this is the replay of Jake's tack visor from the offensive attack, where he comes around the corner. You see Big Goose, he was actually using his Valkyrie, can't come around the corner that safely, obviously, with that tack visor, which just locked onto him. All plays Helix Rocket at the end there from Jake.
Timing is really good, by the way, because the Gladiators were diving or they were mid-dive, so their Diva wasn't with their back line at the time. Very easy for Jake to cut through when you're forcing Shaz to try an LOS or break line of sight. And he didn't have enough time to do so. And then Jake punishes Surefour for trying to do the same thing, finishing it off with the Helix Rockets.
So the Gladiators will go with the same exact team composition they had on their first defensive stand, which is a little bit interesting, considering it didn't work out that well. It could be Hydration, who most likely gets that damage boost, connects to the direct hit on Linkser, all the way in the back.
Okay, so triple DPS for the Houston Outlaws here. Raucus, this is a look we see from him from time to time. You know, he is very much a flex support player in every sense of the word. We see him play at Sombra and Horizon and such as well. So there's so many threats on this team. It's so hard to deal with. Hydration has to back away so early on. The dive forces Big Goose off. He's really low. But we see Coolman as well has been dropping. He gets remixed over that charge in. Hydration's trying to get consistent damage, man. He's looking for Jake now. That's a direct hit you really want to hit.
Well, the issue is there's so much damage with the triple DPS for the Houston Outlaws that the composition that the Gladiators
Pack it up, boys!
Yeah, well, they're sending both of their tanks to the point. It'll be the Houston Outlaws who take Numbani, but for the Gladiators on defense, so much damage coming in. You see Hydration on that top bridge, backs off. It forces both tanks to go in for the Gladiators to contest the point, and then they have to just have the Mercy just kind of fly in, potentially, or just get those heals from range, because they're in a very difficult situation underneath a little underpass.
Triple threat, triple DPS for the Houston Outlaws here, and we can't see you guys, but it's for another reason entirely, Surefour. The Gladiators with a bit of a slow start here, and the Outlaws looking like they have all the answers. Let's see if that persists now into our next map.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. And by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Houston Outlaws.
The Houston Outlaws are the ones that are spearheading the charge for Western team to actually contend for the top.
I really believe in a lot of the players on the team. I think they're some of the best players in the whole world on their positions.
But the Outlaws are looking hot the trot. The Gunslingers now looking up the ante here.
My style is being really defensive and going really aggressive when needed, and then going all in.
My style is very dynamic. I'm an aggressive player. I don't underestimate when I say that gaming is quite literally my life.
Then the Outlaws will claim the first map.
What I want most is the team to be cohesive, to understand the game on the same level, and that takes time, and I want to focus on that.
It's celebration time as Houston rolls forward.
A big thank you to all our fans. All of your support really motivates us to do better, and we're not going to let you down.
Here's a crazy alternate reality for you, Matt. If the Outlaws hadn't lost to Philadelphia in their first game of the season, they'd actually technically be top of the Overwatch League based on map difference from all these 4 rows in the past. Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, so like,
right.
It's crazy how it works, and you know we've got so many of these teams that are sitting at like 2 and 3, and you know like 3 and 3 now after some of these games. But again, some of these teams are very, very close to the top of the standings here, and the Outlaws are looking like they are very, very, very watertight.
Yeah, they have looked very strong. You know, in their previous few matches, you know, they get what 3-4-0s in a row. Coming in today, trying to get another one. I know no substitutions on both sides. You know, in their previous game for the Gladiators, I believe we saw Surefour in the first 2 maps. We saw Asher come in for the next 2, and then in the game 5, we saw Surefour come back in. But Bishu actually came out.
Yeah, we did. Obviously, what I'm interested to see, you know, if they move Bishu around at all, because obviously the reason for them doing that, obviously them throwing an extra DPS player, obviously that we do know that the Gladiators can have a triple DPS look. I don't know if we're going to see on the other side of things like Sprees or Yamendos quite yet. Still haven't seen too much of them so far. Fingers crossed, of course.
I believe we did see Spree in the game 5
It was
against
on the Tower.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Fusion. That's when we saw Spree. I've not seen Mendo yet. We saw Clockwork a little bit earlier in the season. So there's some other players that the Houston Outlaws have that they can bring into the fold. You know, whether it be stage 2, later in stage 1. You know, we'll figure out how you want to use some of those other players.
Temple of Anubis is going to be our second map here in this series. We'll see now. You know, we should be expecting Junkrat. I know the meme. Yes, we should be expecting Junkrat for the Outlaws here at the very least.
Who will play it?
Probably JLolKE.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's how it goes. You know, Jake appreciates that meme, by the way, because he realized... Did you see the interview? He's like, well, some people are doing it to, like, try and be funny. The other people are doing it to actually support me, because they think
people
it's like
are so confused.
Yeah. So he's like, you know, I'll take the good with the bad on this one. So I feel you, Jake.
There'll be the Outlaws on defense, so you will see them play with the Junkrat. Jake will play that hero. Linkser will be playing Widowmaker, so see if they... So they're not going to set up on the high ground, so it's interesting. A lot of teams we saw, you know, in week 1 and week 2, they played a lot on that back high ground with the Widowmaker setup. This time you see them playing on that front bridge now.
Again, this is kind of like the maybe slightly more assertive setup with this kind of defensive structure that you have, you know, your Widow and your Orisa and your Junkrat. Some teams prefer to sit right back, but not all teams feel comfortable about giving attackers so much room inside this compound, right? We're usually trying to hold them at the gate instead of letting them in and sort of allowing attacking teams to take pot shots at them while they're up on the building at the back.
Well, it also does give Linkser a way of escaping, right? Because if the Gladiators decide to dive onto Buma, you know, playing the Orisa behind that shield, he can just use the grappling hook to get back to where the old setup used to be.
That's
and
right.
then, you know, the Winston doesn't have this jump to be able
And
to get up there.
from there as well, it's much harder for the Gladiators to get to him because in between the Gladiators and Linkser is the entirety of the Houston Outlaws with their tanks.
And they've used all their abilities to be mobile to get right on top of that initial bridge. So it's a different strike. See, as the weeks go on, it just develops more and more. So
that was close. Hydration almost took down Linkser there with a very cheeky little reflect of the shot, but Remix is felled. Oh, there it is. That's 2. Linkser there as well. It's hard to threaten him from this position. This is what I'm talking about now. With the bulk of the Outlaws in between Linkser and the enemy, it's another line of defense you've got to break through, and it's a bulky one at that. Linkser has mobility, he can move around, you can see the wireframe. Surefour is actually over inside the temple itself.
Yeah, they know that Surefour is behind enemy lines, and again, the inference say you're going to know exactly where he is. This is not good for Surefour. He would look like he was going to go on a flank, and then for a second he just stopped as soon as that Widowmaker ult comes on down.
It's awkward now, isn't it? It feels real awkward just being sat there. Jake with a double there, Hydration, Big Goose felled by what looked to be the same grenade. And yeah, Shawfall's just going to try and troll a little bit until that Infosight expires. Now, I believe there's I assume there's a trick that Tracy can get up on that ledge with.
Yes.
That gets rid of the boxes there. You can do the same thing on Nepal Village, actually. You can get on a ledge that's actually head height if you dash into it correctly. So I think just making sure that he's going to be safe. And Shawfall hasn't been able to do too much yet. He's just kind of been there.
He hasn't even been put down like any damage. Like, Cool Matt just keeps going back and looking for him. Linkser always comes back, and it's really just putting Gladiators in a difficult spot. At this point, you have to go. Jake trying to go high off the wall here.
How does he salvage this, man? That's the big question. They've lost a couple of players already. Hydration's down. Okay, Link's are being brought back now, and all of a sudden, it's looking much more even. A 5v5 now situation over the point. Mover trying to keep people on the ground with the use of the Hulk, but he has high ground control at least. His shield's a couple seconds off cooldown, but when it's ready, he'll be able to drop it and protect his team on the point. Big Goose and Remix are down, and what looks like would be a big opportunity for the Gladiators falls in a screaming heap.
The Gladiators did get them to use their Transcendence towards the end of the fight, though. So now the Gladiators, they'll come back. They'll have the Dragon Blade plus their own Transcendence. You're not going to have a Riptire on the other side, no self-destruct. You have Muma getting close to the Supercharger. So you have Supercharger and Valkyrie here for the Outlaws.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, Big Goose uses his Valkyrie. Raucus uses his Transcendence. Who would you rather be here? I mean, you know, one side's obviously got Resurrect, potential and extra healing. The other one, of course, Shaz. We know what he can do with a Transcendence. Hydration's been spotted, trying to sneak out around the backside, and Shawfall is down. Now Hydration probably takes Shawfall's place and then trying to embed himself deep in enemy territory, doing
such a weird game for the Gladiators. They've had one of their DPS players just always end up way behind enemy lines. So Shawfall will go to the point, try and draw some players out. There is going to be the Valkyrie that comes out from Bonnie.
Now Big Goose and Chaz both down. Both supports are missing there as well. The Slambulance hits harder. There's no medics to save the Gladiators now. And this is actually something that the Outlaws did very well against the Shanghai Dragons. If we go back to that Horizon Lunar Colony match, Houston were making sure that the key components, the key pieces of Shanghai's strategy were removed very early on, either by early picks or by defensive dives to isolate single players. In that case, it was the Sombra player on the defensive side.
Yeah, so now with 25 seconds left, the Gladiators still have their Dragon Blade, they have their Transcendence. They need to combo these ults together, make a big play. Jake is getting very close to his Riptire. He gets it. That could be devastating for the Gladiators.
Seconds from go time. You can see Remix was just springing himself, getting ready to engage. Jake now takes the high ground. I hear a Dragon Blade. Oh, the Dragon Blade gets put away. Hydration, behave yourself. Sort it out now. Jake going to come up with a Riptire, and Remix is going to fall. Big is trying to get some resurrects, but he's come down a minute. Links are found him from the side. No chance now here. Shawfall tries to leave Raucus a parting gift there. Very kind of him, of course, but it's not going to give them the point, let alone the round. That is very, very frightening now if you are the Los Angeles Gladiators. They never got a chance to make their strategy work or to even put it into action. Had to resort to just trying to dive in and brawl.
They wasted so much time when they had, you know, Shurtfor behind enemy lines, then it was Hydration behind enemy lines. They never were able to get anything going as a team. Like, it always felt like they were just waiting for that one player to come from the side, but you know, the infrared sight, they weren't able to get anything because obviously you know where they're coming from on the flank. And then I think Houston did a good job of just putting enough pressure on that player on the flank to, you know, not make them come into the fight.
This conversation is very difficult to deal with. Think of the same concept we use when we try and talk about why the Gladiators play Widowmaker and Doomfist on Dorado, right? So the defensive setup from the Outlaws had a long-range threat, and it had a much shorter range threat in Jake's Junkrat, right? So you're going to take a lot of damage at the doorway from someone who's playing fairly close up, albeit indirect damage. And then if you want to deal with the other threat, you have to go very, very deep. You saw the Gladiators trying to sneak around back behind them because they knew they couldn't access Linkser by going straight through his tank line. It would be a disaster for them, and Linkser would have all the free damage in the world.
Well, they never really dealt with either threat, which was the problem.
That's right. Well, they couldn't get. They couldn't. Okay. They couldn't see Junkrat. I believe Junkrat gets a buff if you can't see him, by the way. He just wrecks you, right? As soon as you see him, it seems like I see them get picked off a lot. But, I mean, the Gladiators were looking for answers, looking for targets. Neither of them presented themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the Gladiators come out of that, you know, first half on offense with only 4 kills in total.
For the whole team.
For the whole team. No, that's not... that is Final Blows. So
yeah, Final Blows.
That's their 4 kills. So, you know, 5 eliminations. There was like an assist from...
How many did the Outlaws have?
They have 22.
Okay. Rough.
Yeah.
So now,
first half.
The Gladiators really have to, I guess, exemplify their motto. Shields up, hopefully literally and figuratively here as they get some defensive structures erected. Care of remix on that Orisa.
It's a solid club for Linkser join. Fleta affecting Carpe. The players with 100 kills on Widowmaker, you see. So I like this from the Outlaws. They've actually just jumped up.
No.
So they jumped up onto the platform and then just stopped going, just forced them down from that.
They forced him right into the sidelines of Linkser. They just chased them into the trap. The Gladiators were so willing to give up ground, and they walked right into the killing field. Jake was waiting there with Tracer. Linkser was there on Overlook, of course. That is just nasty. The Gladiators there are getting pummeled. We have control map, of course, around the corner. Again, some more of that brawl style Overwatch that we kind of look forward to. A bit more of a, I say this all the time, a fundamental brand of Overwatch. It is time now for the Gladiators to lift the city. I'm counting on it.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. And by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Houston Outlaw fans, make some noise. You're currently up 2-0 at the half. Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Chris Puckett. I'm joined by Bren as well as Crumbs once again. Not the breadcrumbs, Bren and Crumbs. Fellas, so far, it's been all Houston. Let's take it back to the very first game, and I want you to talk me through some of the issues that the Gladiators are running into, Bren, because coming in, you said it's going to be all about the tanks today.
Yes, I did indeed, and that's especially been the case here today. The Gladiators' playstyle right now, it seems that the tanks on their side are dying a lot. Compare that to Houston Outlaws, where Muma and Kumat are prioritizing survivability, protecting the support. You can see Hydration going for these plays. He had a few big moments, but ultimately was getting shut down a lot of the times by Kumat, by Muma, and that's the big difference maker here, is that Gladiators are trying to set up plays, right, for their DPS players, trying to enable Hydration, trying to enable Surefall, but as a result, they're dying a lot much easier.
But I think it goes a bit deeper than that, and it's an issue that is alone with the tanks of the Gladiators right now. I mean, out there, they're looking like they're trying to turn this into a soup kitchen because they just keep going forward on their own without any reason whatsoever. They don't need to create space, especially in a lot of the defensive play. You just have to hang back and wait for the Outlaws to make their move. And the Outlaws are, as we discussed earlier, it's a patient team. You've got the Junkrat, you've got the Pharah. They will just sit back, wait for the opportunity to hit some critical rockets, critical bombs, and then they'll go in. But Gladiators don't even want to give them that much time. They'll just say, we're going to go right on through, and it does not work that way.
What was the most impressive part from the Houston Outlaws in this first matchup? I almost said Valiant.
Yeah,
Outlaws.
so for me personally, it's going to be Linkser. Again, I go on about Linkser quite a lot, but I mean, the guy is ridiculous, to be fair to him. And I have a statistic as well that he's recently joined the top 3 Widowmakers in terms of final blows. He's actually one of the fastest, one of the best Widowmakers when it comes. No one likes Linkser here, apparently, apart from me, of course. But 14 final blows per 10 minutes. That's what he's getting, right? And that's ridiculously fast. The guy is an incredible Widowmaker, sets up his team a lot of the time, but it's the tanks as well, like I mentioned before, that enable him to do so much.
All right, let's talk about Temple of Anubis, because this was the Linkster show on the Widowmaker. 11 picks, only 1 death the entire time. And this one went back and forth, but there were just so many headshots being picked up.
It's not just a lot of headshots, it's the positioning here. He was the one that mentioned, listen, the DPS is not just about aim, it's about the way that your team takes advantage of it. And the way that they set up, they had Jake on the left, Linkster on the right, and the Gladiators just could never pick on one side alone. They never successfully got to break through both sides. And when you have these 2 areas covered by these major threats, you really need to have a committed attack on one of them before you can crack any of these defenses.
Yeah, in general, I gotta say, it's not really. I am disappointed in Gladiators, to be honest, because this is a team that has so much potential in terms of the DPS they've got available to them, the support duo, which might I add is one of the best support duos in the league of Big Goose and Shaz, which you know, it means I'm just kind of left wondering why. How did this quite happen, really? Because it shouldn't be. This is a team with a lot of potential that can potentially take some maps away from a team like Houston Outlaws, and I do want them to step it up. Maybe subbing in like Asher is the goal here. Maybe I think he could potentially turn this one around. Who knows? They need to switch something up.
I was going to ask you, Crumbs, last time we saw this Gladiator squad play, they went up 2-0 and then let their opponents back in the series. Today, they're trying to come back against the Houston Outlaws, but in that Game 5, when the Gladiators finally did fall to the Valiant, they tried triple DPS. They set Bishu on the bench. They brought Asher in alongside Hydration and Surefor. It didn't work out on Lijiang Tower. Do you expect them to bring it out in Game 3?
I do not expect them to bring it out on Game 3. I think this time around, they still would rather have the dual tank and simply just sharpen up their play, because a lot of the mistakes were very individual mechanical mistakes. You have one play that was highlighted, which was iRemix goes in, his supports die, and then he pops Primal Rage as soon as the fight is already over. So you just lost an ultimate, and I don't think that shaking things up with the DPS at that time is necessary. Just understand the mistake that you have, and this team is not down for the count. They have reverse swept before. I think that it's still looking possible for them.
Brent, how does this team get back in it?
Well, just clean up the tank play. That's it. It's really quite simple issues that can make this quite a competitive game, to be honest. If the tanks start stepping up a little bit, they clean up the ultimate usage, they start working a bit better with their DPS and with their supports, you can bring a fight here to Houston Outlaws. This team is more than capable.
All right, Gladiators looking to mount the comeback. Currently, they're in the dugout talking about what happened in that first half, looking to improve in game number 3. Before we get to that game, though, I want to check in with some of our players. We got a chance to talk with Hydration earlier in the week, and he told us a little bit about his unique use of the caps lock and what it allows him to do in the Overwatch League. This is Game Set, sponsored by Omen by HP.
Most of my settings are pretty normal, but one thing that I have that most people don't is I use caps lock to crouch. Unlike most people use like control. I used to have a keyboard like a long time ago that had like a really big caps lock button. So it made the control button be like really far down and it wasn't that easy to reach. So when I switched it to caps lock, I've had it there since. I don't really use emotes, but one thing I did do, I unbinded my emote menu because a lot of times I'd accidentally press it because it's default C and my melee is V, so those are really close together. And when I'd melee, I'd accidentally pull up the menu up, and that could mess me up sometimes. If your settings are not right, you're gonna mess up a lot. If your sensitivity is a little bit too high, you're gonna overshoot things. If it's too low, you're gonna undershoot. And just like a little thing can just mess everything up. When I'm in the middle of the game, I'm just killing everyone, never dying, always on fire, never losing games. It's just an amazing feeling.
That's a look at hydration. Of course, he is going to be a key factor if the Gladiators want to get back in this one. Gladiators fans, make some noise as we head to the commercial break. The rally starts now. We'll see you in a few. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places.
Gonna be a winning fight for the Gladiators.
And it is a brawl. Houston Outlaws again.
Great opening by Remix this.
Here comes Cool Matt back on the point.
That was a dominant showing from Houston.
The Los Angeles Gladiators have got a full head of steam.
Houston Outlaws trying to grind out this win.
Resettle this. I don't know if I want to get too aggressive. Shaz is insane, by the way.
Whoa, Linkser just walks up on the flank.
This is so huge.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the last game of the week. And right now, the Gladiators are getting pretty much rolled over here. Looking like someone's just walked over their graves because the Outlaws are out there taking no prisoners.
Which I don't think a lot of us expected. We expected this to be a very close series. I think I think it's just Houston just showing how strong they can be as a roster.
It's like you come into this game, you have one team in the Gladiators who maybe wins games they have no business winning, or and then loses games maybe they shouldn't lose. Like, it's been back and forth, right? Ash is going to come in for sure for now, as I interject, but then you've got the Outlaws who are on a streak of 4-0s. This is a very hard game to know how these two teams are going to interact. What side? Are we going to get Shore for or Tisumi? You know, that kind of thing. We don't really know what we're going to get. But so far, it's been all about the green ball.
Yeah, the only sub that the Outlaws really make now is they bring in Boink for Bunny, because they want that Lucio play here on Ilios. You see the scores thus far throughout the series, and Bonnie, the Gladiators did complete the map. They were not able to take point A on their next attack, but the Outlaws just kind of ran through them on that one. And then Temple of Anubis was not pretty. 4 kills for the Gladiators the entire map. Their push really just kind of gotten really nowhere on point A. Just so spread out. It's not what we typically see from the Gladiators.
No, and you know what?
To turn it around.
They're going to hate this comparison, but their effort on Temple of Anubis was kind of what we were seeing from San Francisco Shock on the first point of Horizon, for so long. I mean, like getting full held on first point of any assault map is going to make it very quick and also very demoralizing loss. You always, in those positions, you definitely feel like that you got no answer, you got no way to recover. But heading on to Ilios, things are a little bit different, right? Asher comes in, so we know now there's that Tracer staple, and he comes in for Shore Force, so it's pretty much a dead giveaway. Asher and Hydration means Tracer and Pharah.
We'll see how the Houston Outlaws react to this, knowing that there will be the Pharah on the side of the Los Angeles Gladiators. I mean, you could have Lynx or run Widow. This would be a very interesting point to run Widow on. I think maybe you'd want McCree here as you go into Well.
Yeah, it might not be a lock-in here for Lynx, where he has the opportunity to change. I mean, given his hero pool and the fact that we've got Jake on Tracer, I mean, Lynx can play McCree, by the way. Okay. Might actually be the Widow here. Right, so your sightlines are a little bit different playing Widowmaker on this particular map. You need to use the sort of platform and balcony on your side of the map. You can get aggressive and play up on the platforms near the lighthouse, but it doesn't give you very far to run.
Yeah, I mean, when he's playing this well on Widowmaker, it's kind of hard to take him off of it. This is a very difficult map to run Widow on. As you can see, just the choke, he's kind of out here in the open. There's not a lot of great high ground to take. Could create his own high ground though, but it also kind of...
So he's going to create his own high ground to the crumpled bodies of the people he's been shooting this series.
It also forces Hydration to be extremely careful. Oh! Peek out. Oh.
Recall out of that, Asher. No chance for him, and now this is what I was talking about. Lynx can set up here, which is good when you control the point. It's very much like Lijiang Garden, right? Yeah. If you have control, then you can play like this and make it hard to get back in.
You have Hydration go over to Genji now, so not going to play any games here with the Pharah versus Lynxer's Widowmaker. You see he's getting the damage boost from Raucus as well. He's going to be able to just...
Ooh!
He's not going to be able to take down those low HP
targets. That's it, Shaz. That's the good stuff. Jake is going to punish him for that one, though, and Lynx gets brought back, so it feels bad. But Lynx gets taken down straight away by Hydration, actually, so that's fine. Despite the fact that he was being resurrected, LA are now focusing Lynx down. They're realizing the source of perhaps some of the Outlaws' power, and they're cutting it off.
Seeing Jake play some Tracer. Usually we see Jake play Junkrat. Usually see him play Genji a decent amount, Pharah as well. And now we're getting a look at his Tracer play. And you want Lynxer to play things like Kree and Widowmaker. Definitely going to need another Tracer player. This is where we saw them bring Clockwork in. But now it looks like they're going to stick with the same 6, just sub in Boink to play some Lucio.
Here's the switch, though. With Hydration switching off of the Pharah out of the Genji, that's going to necessitate Lynxer switching off the Widowmaker to the McCree. Again, this is something Lynx is probably happy with. He still has all the tools to deal with these flankers. He's still sharp, as you can see. Finding Hydration. Well, you can't actually see it. You can see it on the kill feed. Finds him off screen. Now, Coolmat, though, this is where you really want to focus. Coolmat's the one who's kind of deciding when they're coming forward here. He's also protecting his backline. So he's simultaneously harassing the enemy team and keeping his supports alive. Look at all the control Houston have. Look at the percentage.
Yeah, the Gladiators have not really been able to make it close to the point. They're going to get close to both support ults here. Shaz, it may fall a little bit short of his Transcendence. We're up to 92% and counting. It'll be Raucus using his Valkyrie here at the beginning of this fight.
Hydration trying to dive in. He was being pressured the whole time, and Lynxer was ready to receive him. Open arms, and a Peacemaker set to full auto by the looks. Going to get pressured down now, of course. Remix has to back away. He took so much damage in the early stages here. There'll be a defensive matrix. Coolmat protecting Lynxer. He did manage to get the D-suit on Bishu there with the Deadeye. Now the shots are coming in. Big Goose is one shot away from Shore demise. And Muma's going to find the extra damage with the linking tendrils on the Tesla gun to find the pickup. Coolmat shoves away Remix, prevents him from getting in, but he's going to jump inside the haven, the safe haven, of course, of that Transcendence. And now the Dragon Blade, desperate hydration, needs to make ends meet right now. And instead he makes Linkser into two distinct ends. Jumping in, pressure down by Muma. The job may be done for now. Gladiators have a chance to take this back.
Yeah, I think the Gladiators will swing the point back in their favor. Muma and Coolmat, they back up. Jake switches off of Tracer. We'll go to Junkrat here. Try and just burst down some of these lower HP targets. Light Hydration playing Genji and Asher playing Tracer. Raucus is already at another Valkyrie, so we're going to see them be able to engage with Valkyrie. You also have a self-destruct here from Coolmat.
Jake is getting somewhat frustrated, I guess, from playing Tracer up against this Diva. A lot of good work going in from Bishu there to protect his backline. So now to the Junkrat, it's much harder to deal with hydration, gets blown into bite-sized pieces. Jake doesn't appear to be hungry though. He's got another target to move on to. He sees you there, Remix. You're not nearly as sneaky as you think. Big Winston doesn't quite fit in a doorway. It's a shame, but it's a fact of life. Anatomy is what it is. Now Jake, the pressure Bishu down. D-Suit there as well, trying to go with the Bunny Blaster. Jake, a silencing fistful of gob. Bishu down. And now it's just going to be hydration ready to try and stall things out. He's going to use that reflect, Matt. But that surely is going to be another attempt for Remix. He got boofed up there. He's taken down before he even touches the ground. This could well be one of the quickest series we've seen in the Overwatch League.
Yeah, it's just really clean play on display from the Houston Outlaws. You see both these teams kind of answering each other back with different switches, right? At first, it's Linkser playing the Widowmaker to counter Hydration's Pharah. Hydration goes over to Genji. What happens? Linkser will play McCree, and that doesn't exactly work. Jake makes a change over to Junkrat. They take the point right back.
First map, Ilios down. In all fairness, decent percentage have been built up by the Gladiators by the time the Outlaws managed to take it. The issue is, and what is quite often the case on a map like Ilios or any control map, the person who wins, or the team who wins the first fight quite often wins that round. And percentage-wise, it's definitely in their favor.
So Boink will play Mercy here for the Houston Outlaws. Just gives them a speed boost on Lucio at the beginning. This changes back from the spawn. Raucus will play the Zen. And Houston's kind of fortunate to have these two. You have the triple tank composition on the side of the Gladiators. So they'll have Winston, Diva, and Roadhog. And Asher will play the Widowmaker.
It's almost like the Outlaws knew this, if they're going to sort of put Boink on Mercy so they can have that Zen. Like they saw it coming, these tanks. That Discord Orb's going to be doing a lot of work for them there. And Big Goose flattened by Muma. Linkser have to be careful. He needs to respect the fact that Asher now is on the hunt, but the rest of Asher's team have been torn from limb, essentially. He's going to go down. Fun story about Linkser, by the way. Last time I went up to give him a big hug, he said not to do it too hard, because last time I heard him. So fragile. He's like a glass cannon in-game and in real life. Poor guy. I'm just enthusiastic about my greetings.
My ultimate is charging.
Houston, who gets the point first. I don't know why you're trying to hurt Linkser.
I didn't. I just wanted to give him a big hug.
My ultimate is charging.
So we'll see if the Gladiators can make any kind of progress to get towards the point here. Jake,
that's
a pulse bomb there onto Big Goose.
And there's no way the Gladiators create any traction out of this opportunity. And Jake's starting to style a bit now as well. You can see that he's positioning. He sits very far back. As soon as he gets approached by a Diva, he's just going to loop back around and do it again. So it's another line of defense. We're talking about, staggered defenses or, defensive structures that Gladiators have to break their way through. It's Jake, then Muma, then deal with Linkser, obviously, on the Widowmaker, and then get to the point. There's a lot going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing right now, right? I mean, they're trying to find where Linkser is, and while they're so worried about Linkser in this equation, Jake is just kind of running around, putting a bunch of damage down from behind.
Where's Remix going?
Jake is actually, and Muma are both pressuring Asher out. You see Muma in the kill feed, he will take down Asher, so you lose your Widowmaker, and you lose your main tank. Bishu will get demexed. They'll leave him as Baby Diva. Most likely going to see him. You can see the little X-ray through the wall. Yep, trying to jump off the side. They'll finish him off there before he can do so. 80% and counting for the Houston Outlaws. In control of the point still. Going to use infrared sight. This is going to be very difficult because now they can't even surprise them coming from some kind of off angle.
I don't know, Matt. As Hex would say, it's all over but the crying. Only 10% left now for the Gladiators to have this, or the Outlaws to have this round, should I say. And the Gladiators don't look like they're even close. This is their last fight right here. They're not even need to win the fight, but get on the point where they've already lost two Transcendents, desperately being pulled out. But Linkser doesn't really care. He's like, yeah, you can stand on the point. I'm going to kill the rest of your team. Asher, one shot, returns it over towards Linkser now. It's a bit of an epic duel, and Asher comes out on top. But it might take more than that.
The rest of his team are desperately trying to take control at this point, and Raucus is waiting for Big Goose to appear. Doesn't go with a right click and set the Transcendence. Discretion, the better part of Valor, realizes healing's more important than damage that he would otherwise do. A decision many Sens have to make the hard way. Now Raucus gets a bit of a safe position up the back. You can see the Remix has been discorded. He's in danger. He's going to be chased by Moomer and taken down. Now onto the next target. Hydration will be pressured heavily. Jake's now gotten onto the scene. He's down towards half HP. Outlaws have the numbers advantage. The player's on the point, but losing Jake might make it a bit harder.
They have Linkser come back off the respawn here on Genji. He's putting a ton of pressure here. Arn Asher just trying to force him back from the point. Bijou, though, doing a good job with Hydration. Just keeps these contested. Linkser takes out Hydration. Can't make it back to the point. Coolmat still here to contest it, though, for Houston.
Coolmat now won't be a super long stall there. He gets vaporized essentially as soon as he gets out of it. So the Gladiator's now showing some signs of life. However, at what cost? Let's go and count the cost of that, Matt, because Big Goose did use his Transcendence. Asher is fine in position now. We actually saw Linkser switch over towards the Genji here. Looks like the Outlaws just want to get it done.
Yeah, Shaz will have his Transcendence for the Gladiators. Big Goose falls here early. The hands of Jake. He'll make that trade all the time. It'll be Muma here using the Primal Rage, forcing players back. There's the Transcendence out early.
It's going to have to stall for long enough to get Big Goose into the action though, and it's unlikely he'll have a Valkyrie even if he gets there. Muma down, Raucus gets picked off. Asher threads the needle to find that kill, and the self-destruct from Coolmat doesn't do much but stall and find Hydration. Still, point control, Gladiators.
This next fight, though, the Houston Outlaws will have their Dragon Blade. They'll have their Transcendence, most likely going to have a Valkyrie. No support ults for the LA Gladiators. You're going to need Asher to hit some big shots here on the Widowmaker.
Going to have to get creative, improvise, perhaps. Asher there's going to have to double as a long-range turret. And a swanky French lady. Linkser with the Dragon Blade here. Wants to chuck these tanks down low so he won't be harassed while he's getting to his very gruesome work in the backline. Who's first? Hydration stepping up to the plate. He goes for the reflex though and essentially nullifies Linkser for the moment, but Moomer found a kill anyway. Jumping on Linkser's like trying to sit on a cactus, Matt. It's just not going to work out for you. It's too dangerous. Shaz falls down to the pulse bomb now and looks like we're in the final stanza of this particular fight. Linkser back over on towards the point. Call comes out to the Outlaws. Guys, let's cap this point. Let's be done with this now. Bijou desuited, taken down. Up in the air goes Remix, but he's not long for this world ender. Oh! The final showdown. The big boss, Asher, falls through a reflect from Linkser. He has definitely been in charge of that matchup. And the Outlaws, oh, it's nasty. It ain't pretty. But you know what? That's life. 3-0. Outlaws will win the series with still one map to play.
Gladiators did look better though in that second stage of Ilios. Just they gave up too much percentage there to Houston at the beginning. Houston just played the ult economy game perfectly. Got a big advantage there at the end, put them to good use.
Looking pretty flawless right now are the Houston Outlaws. A couple small things I'm sure they'd love to tweak. The Gladiators now, one more map. Can they bring it in and make it competitive?
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
league that offers opportunity for talented competitors to test and push our assumptions about how the game is meant to be played.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming at you live from Los Angeles, California. Welcome to the Blizzard Arena.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Overwatch League. Our last map of the day is just around the corner, and the Houston Outlaws have been chasing the Gladiators around the kitchen with a wooden spoon, Matt. It's not exactly been pretty to watch. From a team that goes to 5 maps against the Valiant and now struggles to get one against the Outlaws, what is going on?
I think it's just tremendous play from the Outlaws. I think, you look at how the Gladiators played in that series against the Valiant. That's what I expect more from this Gladiators team. Surefour will come back in here for Dorado. Take the spot of Asher. I think it's a combination. I think it's, the Gladiators not performing up to their standards, but I think it's also the Outlaws playing tremendous today.
Very, very tight all over the field here from the Houston Outlaws, and Bunny is back, of course. Boink being brought in as for resident Lucio specialist, but playing Mercy over on Ruin there. Again, to facilitate them breaking down that attempt at a triple tank sort of setup from the Gladiators, Matt. Didn't get very far, though.
No, I mean, they didn't really make much progress with that triple tank setup. So we go into this final map. I think, for the Outlaws, they want to get this 4-0, right? They want to make a statement. And I think, with New York beating Seoul, Seoul, New York, and London all ending up with 1 loss, I think Houston kind of looks at this and says, hey, this is our chance to get back in it, right? I mean, you look at the remaining games of their schedule, they can definitely make a run at the Stage 1 playoffs.
Well, they go to 4-2 with a victory here, and a lot of those top teams are 5-1, so it's only 1 game apart. And, by the way, they have a very good, for and against in terms of maps because of these 3 last 4-0s. And if this is a 4th 4-0, that's going to give them a very good boost when it comes to the head-to-heads.
Yeah, and I believe, London has games against Seoul and New York left. I know Houston will play Seoul next week. I believe next week Seoul's tough this week. I believe they play London and
next week the Outlaws play against San Francisco and Seoul. The week following that, they play against London and Boston. So not exactly, the smoothest ride home still for the Outlaws, but that's where they really get to prove themselves here. After a bunch of 4-0s, it can sometimes be hard to really, get that litmus test of a team's strength done properly.
And London has some very tough games left too. I mean, they have, I think, a matchup against Seoul. They have New York still, the final week of the season, and they have this Houston team. So a lot of really good games left here in Stage 1.
Yeah, we finished last week, wondering if how obvious it would be, and thinking that it would be quite obvious who would be sort of at the top of the ladder in this stage. And then after a couple days here in week 3, it's all been thrown on its head. But that's kind of how we like it, ladies and gentlemen. That's kind of how we do it here at the Overwatch League. Now into Dorado. It's actually going to be the Outlaws on the defensive side. Gladiators on the attack here. They've got the Pharah for hydration.
You're going to play this Pharah again into the Widow of Linkser. See if you can make it work a little bit better than it did on Ilios. Hydration comes over the top. Gets a few shots in here to cool Matt. It's interesting, when we spoke with the Gladiators really early on, it was like, well, what are the roles of Surefour and Asher going to be? And it was like, well, Surefour is going to play a lot of the hit scan and whatnot. Asher, he's a phenomenal tracer. We've seen Surefour play a little bit more tracer than I expected, at least.
Yeah, last time around, I think that the Gladiators play, of course, we saw more of Asher in the second part of the series, but he's been subbed out. So maybe something went wrong, or something's not gelling, or Surefour is being brought back in. Again, either way, the Gladiators know they want to salvage a map. Maybe now knowing the series is lost, they want to try something a little bit different. That's also fair. However, Hydration and Big Goose go down early. They hit the ground hard to start with. Linkser fighting 2, and again, what do you do with a problem like Linkser? Getting into that back line, dealing with that Widowmaker. He's not even standing that far back now as he's starting to feel a little bit more.
Well, remember, in a game we cast on Dorado a little bit earlier in the season, the Gladiators on the defensive side ran Surefour playing Widowmaker, and they ran Hydration on Doomfist. That was against the Shanghai Dragons, and it was a very difficult setup to break because you had the Widowmaker all the way in the back. Right. Doomfist, obviously, over in the choke, able to put down a ton of damage, make it very costly to move on through. I don't want to say it's the same type of thing, right, when you have Junkrat in the equation, but it's the same kind of, burst kills that Doomfist can provide, and then it makes it very difficult to get all the way to the Widow in the back.
Fun fact, by the way, the first time Houston tried this Junkrat on Dorado defense was yesterday in scrims. Yesterday. So they tried it out just for fun, and it worked really well for them.
We're seeing quite a few teams do that. We're even seeing teams play that Hanzo on the attack here as well. So we're still seeing innovation on the map that's been around since this game entered closed beta, so that's fun.
And now the Gladiators have both support ults. It'll be the Riptire used here by Jake. Doesn't connect with anything. They have to be very careful here, though, the Gladiators. You use both these support ults, you lose this fight. You only have 1 minute and 49 left on the clock. You'd be kind of going down to the wire.
They already are, to be honest with you. They've spent a lot of time trying to set up, and we saw this same problem here. Ooh, Lynx are actually going to go down there. So Shaz picks him off from extreme range, but Lynx is going to get brought back by Bunny. They need him. Lynx are being the centerpiece of this composition, and Jake just vaporizes Short4. He's going to be brought back, but again, maybe even to his demise once more, as Jake himself is resurrected. Bishi to the high ground now, thinking about zoning out Bunny, but does notice that Lynxer actually opts into a fight with the D.Va, and even comes out necessarily unscathed. Bishi getting decent there, trying to deal with Lynxer, but he goes down to Jake, and now Hydration. I mean, that's pretty intense boss battle, I guess. Hydration is trying to charge up, get some ultimate if he didn't have it already, but wasn't going to be able to get the kill there.
And Short4 is actually snuck all the way behind enemy lines yet again, so not like on Anubis where he's all the way in the back. Short4 finds him all the way in the back by the mini health pack to Lynxer's right here, so.
Both teams used their Valkyries in the previous fight, so it all comes down to the Transcendence. Jake doesn't care about Transcendence here, but he does care about a Tracer harassing him. A Riptire from Jake will destroy the Gladiators if it's placed well enough, regardless of Trans being in play or not. Shaz hasn't used it, he probably won't go for it. Nope, no point, but he's going to get taken down, so that's even worse. The fight's already over for the Gladiators now. Back it up, back to spawn.
And Short4 still behind enemy lines here, so the Tracer's still alive for the Los Angeles Gladiators. Maybe just trying to draw Jake a little bit further back from that choke, providing he can't put a lot of damage down.
Yeah, they did this on the Tale of Anubis as well.
Anubis, yeah.
Yeah, and Lynxer didn't seem to be too bothered by it. Look at Raucus. He's actually up on that ledge there in the corner. He could actually catch, Short4 as he tries to come in. That's a super cheeky spot. Jake blows up Short4 there, so he spent so much time flanking and it was to no avail. Oh, it hurts. I can feel it in my giblets. Short4 now out of the picture and probably won't be returning to the fight, but there is a Transcendence at least here from Chaz. Now, Lynxer doesn't care about Transcendence either. Headshots are still going to be lethal for him, so it's still worth trying to take shots in and see what he can get. I'm pretty sure Hydration got caught in a trap there, and that's definitely an undignified way to go. Bishu ejected up into the air, straight into the crosshairs of Lynxer. Jake with yet another Riptire here. It's a domination. It's all about the green wall right now. No one's getting over that.
And Hydration, I believe, falls at the hands of Jake's Riptire there towards the end, so you're never able to get a use of that Dragon Blade. The payload does not go far. Gladiators just don't look like themselves here today, Mitch. We've seen this team play much better than they have today. It just seems like, combination of the Outlaws' tremendous play. Outlaws definitely trying to make a statement with this game. Jake said this is going to be a 4-0. Very looks like it's going to be a 4-0.
Gladiators are looking for options, looking for responses, Bringing Short4 back in for this game, looking to have him make that impact on the Tracer. He spent so long trying to flank, but again, Tracer, she can flank that high ground position that Widowmaker that Lynxer was sitting in, but it requires her to go up into the courtyard and get up on the high level. So the way things stand now, the Gladiators cannot allow the payload to pass by the fountain in that middle of that courtyard. That is going to only give them... They're going to have to fight far forward, first of all.
Yeah.
Going to have to pretty much try and spawn camp. But even if they do that and they lose that spawn camp fight, I don't even know if they have time. There it is right there. Very, very close. This is going to have to be some superhuman stuff from the Gladiators.
And even if the Gladiators were to fail here on the defensive end, you can't really get a great grasp of how well they played on the defensive side, because you see how close.
You don't get to see it.
Yeah, I mean how close it is for Houston to take this map.
So. But that's been the problem, Matt, is that we haven't got to see all that much of Los Angeles Gladiators defense because they haven't played much of it, because their attack has been, to be honest, substandard.
But they had in the past some very good attacks.
Yes. But they got so many looks, man. They've got an incredible duo in their tanks. They got a triple DPS option if they want to go for it. Short4's incredible Widowmaker.
And I tell you what, Shaz has been a big player for the Gladiators, getting those first bloods of Zenyatta in some of their previous series. Houston has not given them up in this series, though. I mean, they have been very good at not getting picked by Shaz early in these fights.
Rumor there. Maybe didn't intend to hit the doorway on that jump, but regardless, he's out of the door. Lynxer on the Widowmaker here, so we might get some Widow v Widow action. This time not Asher, but Short4. And this is uncommon for a main tank to flank like this. So Muma,
He's going to go all the way around and try to jump over the building.
No, he's taking the Mickey. He was just checking. So Muma just would use a rocket jump there and probably just see where Widowmaker's standing, because it's too unsafe to peek it from that underpass.
See the Orisa. Surefour is going to be playing behind it. They've given up so much space here, the Gladiators. It's really just going to come down to like one fight, right? If Houston were to take this, it'd be over.
Already over.
Big Goose drops here right at the beginning.
I hate saying that, Matt. I really do, but Big Goose is down. Hydration's not far behind him. Jake just pressuring forward. That's it. Oh, it's just a dominant victory here from the Houston Outlaws. And a hush of disbelief for the Gladiators. A team that plays so close to some of the top in the league now never entered the arena, really. The body was there, the spirit was not.
Houston makes a huge statement with a big 4-0 here over the Gladiators. Like you said, the Gladiators have played a lot of good teams very close. They come in here today, pretty motivated, put up a good fight against Houston. Another very good team. Houston just way too strong. That final map, Houston actually outkills the Gladiators 21-2.
Tough week.
Tough week for the Gladiators.
Absolutely. They've got a lot of recovering to do. They will have an opportunity to do that, of course. The Gladiators go on to play Florida and Boston next week. And the Outlaws, as said before, it's San Francisco and the Seoul Dynasty wait at the other end of it. So much more prep to be doing, I'm sure. Some time to celebrate, indeed. It's 4 4-0s in a row for the Houston Outlaws. That's an incredible record in the last few games.
Yeah, and you keep stacking up these 4-0s. When you get towards later in the stage in the season and that map differential comes into play, those are huge.
It is going to count later on there as well. Jake on your screen as well. Saw a lot of Junkrat. Saw the Tracer look from him there as well. That flexibility, being able to have Linksa go over towards the Widowmaker. Sit Jake on the Tracer. He can still have an impact. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. He switches over toward the Junkrat and continues to lay that damage on. All across the board, the Houston Outlaws have got to be very, very happy with themselves. After a bit of a rough start to the season, again, no one expected them really to drop that map to the team we now know to be the big deal as well, the Philadelphia Fusion. The smiles all around.
You have Jake with a lot of just versatility. Same with Linksa. I think that adds a lot to this squad.
Well, Matt, that's done for us for the week. Let's head now to the floor with the lovely Zoe and the even lovelier Raucus. Nice hair, bro.
Thank you so much, guys. I have Raucus, the beautiful, beautiful Raucus. I love your hair. I can't get enough of actually watching it right there on screen. And you know what? Jake called it. 4-0. It happened right there on the stage. Did you guys share his confidence going into this match?
Of course. We had to back him up. We knew we were going to get the 4-0 after he called it.
All right. I like the confidence. That's the way to do it. Now, Gladiators went up against the Valiant earlier this week, and they pushed it all the way to game number 5. Valiant is currently considered one of the best teams in the Overwatch League. How did you guys make it look so easy against the Gladiators when Valiant, one of the best teams, arguably, had to fight so hard for their victory?
I think when we play our game, we're actually unstoppable. I think when we play our game to the perfection we can play it and practice it, I think the players on our team are just better than every other player. And I feel like if we keep this team up, we're just going to 4-0 more teams to come.
All right, if we're looking ahead next week, you guys are going to face the Seoul Dynasty. They're not undefeated anymore. However, they're still very much on top of that leaderboard. How confident are you guys?
I'm confident, but you can't be overconfident. They're an amazing team, amazing players. They've won so much. We just have to, prepare well and play our game and just take it one map at a time.
All right, well, we can't wait to see you guys back on stage. Once more, congratulations to you and your team continuing that winning streak. We're now heading to our analyst desk to break down the action.
Thank you so much, Zoe. And speaking of continuing, we got to continue some love for Raucus right now. It's our player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. Yes, the Zenyatta gets the honors for today. Links are popping off. We saw our DPS Jake going into town. But Raucus on the supports was solid from game 1 all the way to game 4. Brendan, what did he show you today?
Yeah, in general, just above and beyond Zenyatta gameplay, to be honest. The guy just impresses me more and more. I noticed in his other games the other day as well, he's putting out consistently high damage as a Zenyatta. Always important to be doing, building up those transcendences nice and quickly for his team to work off.
Grums, we're going to take a look at some of the numbers here, I'm told. And Raucus put up some big ones as he compared against Shaz. I think that was the big battle coming in today. The Zenyatta's known for their fragging. we'll get the damage done here.
It was a battle, but across the board, just every member of the Outlaws, as Ruckus was saying, just looked so much better than anybody else on the Gladiators. The eliminations to death, 6 deaths in...
Is that real? 4 games, 6 deaths?
Yeah.
I believe that is true.
That's ridiculous. He had 15 less deaths than the opponent Shaz when he was playing his role. So, I mean, it's a huge, huge discrepancy. You can pin down a lot of other underlying factors, not just the Zenyatta play, but it does just come to show that Houston Outlaws are in a league above.
All right, let's go into our map coverage here. As we go back at halftime, it was a 2-0 lead for the Houston Outlaws, so we knew this was a must-win scenario for the Gladiators going into map 3. Were they going to show us triple DPS? Not this time. They went with Asher and Hydration, but the Gladiators were picked apart by this man, Linkser, on the Widow, as well as the McCree. Went to town on the Well, and it was just a team effort overall from the Houston Outlaws.
They just could not hold a candle to the Outlaws for this one. When they came down to Linkser, his McCree, and the Widowmaker were just a world above what Asher was bringing to the table, especially here this time around. I mean, sure, we get to see Asher get the better of Linkser, but the team effort in Muma and Jake's Tracer to not only zero him out, but put him in an unfavorable situation on the Widow battle just made his job that much harder.
Yeah, when people say, you know, I do go on about Linkser quite a bit, about how good he is at the game and how when he's performing, he's one of the best DPS players in the league, but it's absolutely true.
By the way, right here,
these days.
Gladiators tapped out. They must have tapped out for game 4 because they did not push the payload twice. They literally just abandoned it. And
reminds me of my matchmaking games, Crumbs.
Yeah, it's like, at least keep the Zen on it, guys. You can throw discords from there. Honestly, I don't know what happened to the Gladiators tonight, but they were definitely not on the same level that we saw against the Los Angeles Valiant. So let's talk a little bit about that. Is that an issue internally with the Gladiators, our Purple Squad, or do you think it was problems caused by the play of the Houston Outlaws?
So, first of all, you can't discredit the fact that Houston Outlaws has some of the best talent on this team in general, right? So that's already issue number 1, is you're playing against some of the best players in this league with some of the greatest team play, because these guys are toppling teams left, right, and center. So that's one issue. Gladiators themselves, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to beat around the bush. They did have some issues that they need to clean up. However, we know that they're more than capable of it from their match against Valiant. We know they're capable of taking wins and performing at a high level, so they're not out of it just yet.
They're more than capable, but before I was looking at this team as these guys that were not going to tilt, that they're going to be able to bring things back as they did with the first reverse sweep in the league. But this time around, it just showed a completely different side of this team that just means that we still have to see a lot more before we can draw some solid conclusions about where this team is standing in the league.
All right, we still have some time in stage 1, and of course, remember, we have 4 stages before the league will conclude with season 1. Let's take a look back at the action here as we finish day 3. It all started with a really nice game 5 between the Dallas Fuel and the Boston Uprising. Boston walks away with a big victory there. The Valiant go up to 4-2 as they take down the Mayhem, and the Gladiators just fell at the hands of the Houston Outlaws, who have now won 16 straight maps. And you can see that is now a major impact in our standings. Valiant knocked down a notch. Houston takes over the number 4 spot, and Philly joins them at number 6. Next week, though, we have some really important matches, and it all kicks off here with the Valiant facing off against the Fusion, who will officially lock in that number 4 spot. A little bit later, it'll be the Florida Mayhem versus the Gladiators and the Outlaws versus the Shock. All that action kicks off on Wednesday at 4 p.m. For now, we got to say goodnight on behalf of everyone working the production here in the Blizzard Arena. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Just what I